that in exercise of his constitutional rights, the said Omoyele Stephen Sowore filed an appeal at the Court of Appeal, and which is still pending before that same Court of Appeal. After he went on an appeal and he could not perfect his brief with his lawyers, he now resorted to self-help and descended so low as to turn around to procure one Samuel Honor, a known motopark ballahu in Yaya, outskirts of Abuja, to dress and impersonate as a native doctor, and brought him into the hallowed chambers of the courts to scare, intimidate, and ridicule members of the bar and benches, thus desecrating the temple of justice and the process. Furthermore, our great party on 9th August 2019 at Owerri, Imo State, held its national convention, wherein the formerly suspended Omoyele Stephen Sowore was duly removed as national chairman of AAC and also expelled from the party. And the exercise was duly monitored by INEC in line with the law, and this was widely reported across various media, nationally and internationally. Following the vacuum created by the removal and sack of Omoyele Stephen Sowore, the National Convention of AAC, which is the highest decision-making organ of the party, duly proposed and elected Dr. Leonard Nzenwa as the national chairman of the African Action Congress at the said convention, and he has been exercising his duties without let or hindrance till date. In recognition of my little effort to deepen and entrench electoral and democratic process in Nigeria, the umbrella body of the political parties in Nigeria, the Inter-Party Advisory Council, elected my humble self as its national chairman, and I have been helping to integrate as well as grow the party within the body of Nigerian political parties as well as outside it. The body has established robust relationship with all stakeholders, including INEC and others, over this period. Arising from the foregoing, we make bold to state categorically that the said Omoyele Stephen Sowore is unknown to the African Action Congress, AAC, and therefore has no basis for laying any further claim to the national chairmanship position of the party, or in any other manner holding out himself as such. He is also not in control of any structure of the party at any level, or indeed, or any members of the party. But what he does is to congregate a bunch of miscreants and fellow travel workers like him to cause confusion and cause public disturbance across the Federation, even here in FCT Abuja. Regrettably, in violation of these orders of various courts and the terms of the election of Dr. Leonard Nzenwa as the national chairman of the AAC by the National Convention of the party, Omoyele Stephen Sowore, by a letter dated 2nd June 2020, wrote to the chairman of INEC, wherein he held out himself and signed as the national chairman of the African Action Congress, AAC. The said criminal action of Omoyele Stephen Sowore, as expressed in the letter, was reported by his media propaganda a blackmailing money for profit outfit called a blog Sahara Reporters. In submitting the said letter to INEC, Omoyele Stephen Sowore came with the busload of his criminal support group, drawn largely from his Revolution Now, an outlaw gang currently under watch by the security agencies. In the process, Omoyele Stephen Sowore flagrantly disturbed public peace at the INEC headquarters, incited his outlaw group to disturb the peace of the public place, caused immeasurable nuisance to every person. Again, on 3rd of March 2021, Mr. Omoyele Stephen Sowore again mobilized a gang of fairy-looking hirelings to the INEC headquarters in Maitama, Abuja, and a visibly angry Sowore declared to his gang that if by the 15th of March 2021 an INEC does not restore him as the national chairman of our great party, he would mobilize members of his gang to shut down INEC offices nationwide. Knowing that Mr. Sowore is expelled from the party and that the people he went with to INEC offices are not members of the party, our members who were approached have informed us that ultimate target of Mr. Sowore was to burn some INEC offices from the 15th of March 2021 and blame same on the rejection of the electoral body so that he can propagate his Revolution Now campaign. He believes he has radicalized his members enough to launch his attack. Hence, his declaration at INEC office that his gang were not afraid of arrest or being jailed. This is clearly a threat to national security. The mentioning of INEC offices is just a subterfuge to attack any and every public infrastructure and property within sight in its identified locations. African National Congress has nothing whatsoever to do with these threats or this so-called mobilization that is being undertaken by Omoyele Stephen Sowore and his gangs. Note also that these latest moves and embezzlements, mobilization by Mr. Omoyele Stephen Sowore are in clear violation of the bail condition granted him by the Federal High Court, Abuja, and other courts in this land. Based on the foregoing, we wish to state in clear terms that action of Omoyele Stephen Sowore in writing the said letter to INEC and signing as national chairman when he knew it was false amounted to criminal act of impersonation and making false information. This is because Sowore dishonestly and fraudulently wrote and said the said letter in order to impersonate the national chairman of AAC with an intention of causing INEC to believe that the said letter emanated from the authentic national chairman of AAC who had the authority to make it. Similarly, action of Omoyele Stephen Sowore also constituted a criminal act of furnishing of information by giving the false information to INEC chairman that he is the national chairman of AAC and to other stakeholders, and by publishing same and operating a rogue website and social media handles for same, Sowore has committed a criminal offense of furnishing false information to a public servant and other stakeholders which he knew to be false and has no reason to believe. Again, by violently storming the INEC headquarters, that is the epicenter of Nigerian electoral processes and system, the hallmark of our democracy, the headquarters of our election hub, with its outlaw gang of Revolution Now, and disturbing the peace of such public place, as well as causing and inciting disturbance there, he is also perpetrating criminal act of disturbance of public peace, inciting disturbance, and public nuisance. Importantly, by the judgment of the court affirming Dr. Leonard Nzenwa, my humble self, as the national chairman of the African National Congress, Omoyele Stephen was specifically restrained from doing any act affecting or disturbing the performance of the duty of Dr. Leonard Nzenwa, my humble self, as the national chairman of the African National Congress. His present criminal action runs contrary that of this subsisting and binding order of the Court of Competent Jurisdiction, as Sowore is criminally repeating and continuously his public nuisance against Dr. Leonard Nzenwa and the National Party, as well as other public institutions in this country, so specifically as it relates to INEC. Gentlemen of the press and party associates, you will also recall that Omoyele Stephen is facing criminal trial, where part is his bail condition is that he must not be part of the very act that he has perpetrated at the INEC office. By violating the terms of the bail, it is imperative that his bail is urgently revoked for public good. Consequently, it is our firm resolve that the above actions of Omoyele Stephen Sowore clearly constitute criminal offenses of criminal conspiracy, contrary to Section 96 of the Penal Code, law, disturbance of public peace, contrary to Section 113 of the Penal Code law, inciting disturbance, contrary to Section 113 of the Penal Code, furnishing false information, contrary to Section 139 of the Penal Code law, public nuisance, contrary to Section 183 of the Penal Code law, continuance of nuisance after injunction to discontinue, contrary to Section 199 of the Penal Code law, making of false statements, contrary to Section 362 of the Penal Code law, and criminal intimidation, contrary to Section 396 of the Penal Code law, treason, contrary to Section 410 of the Penal Code law, all punishable by various degrees of imprisonment. It is also extremely important to note that the underlying criminal actions of Omoyele Stephen Sowore is capable and indeed very likely to lead to tremendous breakdown of law and order in the country, if not urgently checkmated, and could ultimately lead to violent breakdown of law and order, and possible, in most cases, if not taken, the plot is also to overwhelm the government by unknown persons who he leads and which he tags Revolution Now. We must note that no individual should be greater. I repeat, we must note that no individual should be greater than the laws of this great country. The African National Congress prides itself as building strong institutions and not strong individuals. We do not have place for strong individuals. What we have is a place for strong institutions. Every democratic system thrives on strong institutions and not strong individuals. So we must note that no individual should be greater than the laws of this great country. To unabashedly spurn all court judgments, deliberately and willfully default on various bail conditions, and arrogantly walk into the hallowed temple of justice with native doctor and voodoo merchant to scare, intimidate, and ridicule members of the bar and benches, including law-abiding petitioners, and also continuously blackmail African Action Congress, AAC, with other stakeholders like INEC, are all jokes taken too far and should be stopped before many who share such uncultured and bad behavior will make mockery of all that we stand for. It is therefore on account of this calculated, deliberate, uncultured, braggadocious harassment, intimidation, and blackmail by Omoyele Stephen Sowore and his co-travelers against our great party, highly esteemed Nigerians, particularly public office holders and democratic institutions like that of Independent National Electoral Commission and others, that our great party, conscious of its patriotism, integrity, goodwill, and popularity among Nigerians, as a formidable grassroots political party, decided to address you today. Finally, we therefore call on all relevant security agencies as a matter of great national importance to kindly commence immediate investigation of the above criminal acts with a view to arresting and prosecuting Omoyele Stephen Sowore for the various criminal offenses disclosed where there is evidence of commission of offense forthwith.